Horsemanship Remarks Show. Let's see. It's October. October is flying by already. I was thinking this morning how I am so not excited about how worried I am about time. Sorry for the thing here. It comes in the bottom. It's like, yeah, except for, isn't that where everybody clips their stand? Hey, good morning.
Whoa, I'm way not organized here. I'm like, why is it? Here I am, though. There,
Yeah,
now I'm organized.
look, here you are.
I
Well,
thought it was already, but then I realized my light wasn't even plugged in.
well, we made it. I still feel like we're on deck earlier. Susan, good morning. What's the weather up there already? Julie, hi. Good morning. We had a gorgeous day yesterday, although it's getting cold because you know how it is here, Michael. It's like you're like, oh, it's not so bad. It's gonna be 60, and then it's damp, and you're
Right
like,
now.
yeah,
Yeah, we had a hard frost night before last, so feeling pretty real right now. Colors are changing quicker, and yeah, it's like I don't know. That's more real than the. Well, I don't know. I guess the inevitability, but we could just as easily, if I wasn't watching the weather, be like, "Oh, and it's spring again next week." But when it hits and it's like suddenly cold, and you're like, "Oh, here goes the sink." We're just like dropping in.
yeah.
This one feels like the final drop before winter, but who knows? 2016, when we moved here in November, we had all of our stuff out in the yard for like a week to air it out after it had been in storage for a while. So it was like decent enough weather to do that for a week in like the first part of November, 10 years ago. So
Coming up on your 10-year anniversary, that's a big deal next year. Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, sadly, it's going to rain for the clinic. So I'm not super excited about that, but oh well. Mostly just because we like to have day stalls for everybody. And it's like, well, that means everybody else kind of has to sit in the rain. So, but it is the season. And, I suppose it does look beautiful as well. So that's nice. Had a day of perfect footing in the round pen with flour yesterday. So I was like, well, I'm going to use it. Like, the footfalls, you could hear the footfalls just perfectly. And I was using my carrot stick and string, and my string was just sliding just perfectly. I was like, oh, it'd be nice to have a little bit more days like this. But kind of funny, Michael. I packed River and Novella over to Debbie's. I had like 5 horses lined up to ride, and got there, and the setup was just perfect for me to do something with flour, like in a new way, and kind of really push on. So I abandoned all the horses. So River and Novella stood in the trailer. Novi was saddled. It was fine, stood in the trailer for 4 hours, and then I drove them home. So, yeah. Did not get horseback yesterday, but I feel super relieved because I finally feel like if Flower got out, she would be looking, which she's not going to, but you always think, well, worst case scenario, what if? And I finally feel like if she was lost, she would come to me for, like, oh my God, I know you, can you help me? So, oh, what a huge relief. That took a long time, but that's what I wanted or that was really weighing on me, because even if a horse isn't or mule is not halter broke, there's still an element of that. It's like, would they come to you as an icon of safety? So anyway, I know you have some things on your mind. So what's on your mind?
How do you know that? But just sent you a picture doesn't mean I have anything on my mind.
Okay. Well, do you?
I don't know.
Okay.
No.
Well, do you want to hear a little
When
bit?
we talk, I'll have some things that'll bubble to the surface. Yeah, I haven't been thinking about it this morning. What are you thinking about?
Well, probably. I mean, actually, I have a lot of horsey things on my mind. A lot of different horses on my mind, I should say. But we should say, Brenda, hi, good morning. Brenda doesn't get a chance. We should say hi to everybody. So let's see. Julie, Corey, Katie, hi. Are the girls with you? Oh, sunny and beautiful, huh? And Brenda, good morning. Okay, then that fades away. All right. So Michael. Um,
And hopefully Face joins us. She says she hasn't been catching us recently because without the Facebook notifications popping up,
Ah, yeah.
it's like, well, we have to pretend to have a live on Facebook so the notification pops up and just say, "Screw you, Facebook. Go join us on YouTube. We're live now over there."
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, one thing I wanted to remind you guys that our horsemanship insiders, don't forget that the Heart and Soul Live, um, with all of us, like, just remember that's coming up October 21st or something like that. So 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Yes. Yes. So I just want you guys all to remember that, because I know some people did miss that as well. Mhm. So I'm super excited about Revlon.
Yeah,
That's been
gonna be
really
pretty
fun.
tall.
She is going to be really tall. You guys can go to my Instagram and watch me do the string test. Yeah, I was like, but it's kind of funny because some people are so sure that it is totally bogus, and they're like, it was completely wrong. And, then you have like 80% of the people that are like, it's right on the money. And you're like, oh, I don't know. But everybody does seem to agree that you measure from the middle of the knee to the cornet band. Have you done it, Michael?
No.
No. So we did it with Debbie's yearling and with Revlon. So at least we'll have two data points. So I wish her tail would grow. It kind of is, but you're looking at it like, is it growing? So anyway, it's been a very interesting. I think the thing that's on my mind the most, like we talked about last week, the relationship, the education, and the exposure. I had a sponsor day on Sunday for the girls that host my clinic, or yeah, sponsor my clinics. Debbie hosts my clinics and host the lesson days. Um, so they were all over there, and it was cool because we got to do some of that exposure the way that I wanted to do it, which of course worked out great. So that was really fun. But
Closure with Revlon.
mhm, where the
Okay.
girls could walk up and
Like,
pet her.
okay.
hmm But like I said, I wanted it done the way I wanted it done, so that she ended up in the middle, you know, and so it was pretty cool. But it's funny because let's get back to Flower really quick. So, those of you guys that are new, Flower is a little black wild Molly mule that I adopted in July. So, not Feather, my Molly mule from 2 years ago, who is perfect and amazing. But this is a new one, and she's so wild. But it's been really interesting to watch her be so engaged when I'm doing things with Revlon. Like, she's definitely into that, wants to be a part of it. It's a funny thing. Um, but anyway, I was thinking about the relationship component, and Michael, I just am terrible without that. I think I was talking to Gary actually, and I was like, holy shit, I don't know how to do this without that. Because it's taken me a while. I mean, honestly, yesterday was the first day that I feel like we had some actual rapport. Now, we have a relationship, and she's don't know. I wish I could put my finger on it, Michael, a little bit more, because it's like it's like I mean, she let me pet her, but it was like she let me pet her. You know what I mean? And then she'll come right up to me at times, if because I taught her to drop. But it's not the same. And you kind of like at a dead end until you can develop that. So then I was thinking to myself, what are you gonna do if the relationship or the feeling is not rewarding yet? Because you guys, whatever we reward, we get more of. Uh-huh. And if you're not getting more of it, it's not rewarding, right? I mean, that's the thing. You might think you're rewarding the animal, but if you're not getting more of the behavior that you think you're rewarding, that's not rewarding, right?
In other
So,
words, if you think you're moving forward, but it's not moving forward, you're not actually moving forward.
sort of, sort of. But I guess, I mean, yes, sort of. But when you come down to training, when you have positive and negative reinforcement, a positive and negative punishment. And side note on punishment is so interesting because people think, oh, punishment doesn't work with horses. That's like, I don't know, part of the phraseology that's in the and in the atmosphere. And it's like, well, punishment works very, very well with horses, and they use it all the time. So pretty simple. It's just like using something that the animal doesn't want. So you can either add it or take it away. Um, but the the reality is it causes the animal to stop what they're doing. That's the thing. So then if that is your mode of like training, it's like, well, you could get them to stop something maybe, but then what are you going to do, right? You need them moving either away from pressure or towards something that they want, one or the two, right? And I guess the thing is, rev do you have a thought on that? You're looking contemplative.
No, I'm just thinking, as I often do, about the word, the not too many years ago where everything was relief, 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 as opposed to release, and how like it's different, but it's almost more of a cheap. It seems like
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
offering you a little token of relief.
Which
All right, it makes it even sound more like you're pouring the pressure on, and then you turn it down, and there's a little relief from the pressure,
yeah,
as
it's
opposed to pressure and release. I don't know.
yeah, so tell me what you guys think about this. Because so you have two different things, right? Punishment and reinforcement. So if you are taking away, so punishment would be something that the animal doesn't want.
Being kicked, being bit.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, like adding a sound, like that's a big thing. Or for dogs, I think, Corey, tell me if I'm right, but I remember hearing this like crash, like some, for instance, my border collie would just hate it if she was somewhere and like a bunch of pop cans fell down next to her. Like that would be awful. She would hate that. So that would be an example of adding something that the animal doesn't want. So one of the things with Flower yesterday is when we kind of got going, she was not wanting, she wanted out, or she didn't want to be a part of the whole experience at first. So she did kick out a few times, and I slapped the ground a couple times with the string, right? I don't use that to go forward like I used to way back in the day. It just wouldn't be the same like effect. But and of course she did not like that. So that was punishment. So you guys follow me? You're adding something. Corey knows all about this. I'm sure all you guys know this. But here's my question. If she so is it just my intention? So for instance, I just wanted her to stop kicking out, right? Let's like stop doing that. We're not going to do that. Okay. But then are we confusing it as she then goes forward? It's like, okay, well, is that positive reinforcement because I'm taking away something that she doesn't want? Subtracting something that she doesn't want. Well, how are we going to say I added a punishment, she stopped doing something? Well, how is that different? Corey.
Different than when she started doing something.
Yep, yep. And so you talk about getting caught in the weeds. Does it really matter? But we can come back to that. I really want to hear what you guys think about that. Because I was talking to somebody else who was teaching somebody else, and there's some I do have exasperation at times just because it's tricky when somebody wants an answer to an actual thing that they're doing. They might need the horse in the trailer, or they might need the horse to stand still for saddling, or they might need the horse to maintain gait, or who knows, whatever the acute problem is, that my horse is late behind in the changes, something like that. And but then you're like, oh my God, you don't even know the mechanism for training. You don't even know some basic equestrian principles. So it's like, oh, I don't know at which point do you wind yourself back. But I really do think that understanding the basics of training, a cue, a marker, and a reward is the most effective. Like that is the deal, right? So then you use positive and negative reinforcement to create that, depending on how you think about it. And the way Michael and I think about it, I'm speaking for you, but I'm pretty sure I'm right, is the negative reinforcement setting it up. That's the thing. Setting it up so that the horse can find their way to something is the mechanism for training. And so the what we use. And so then having a cue, having some sort of stimulus that helps give understanding about what to do, not just pure behavior capture. Then, as the animal is moving towards, I'm just going to say horse because I like that phrase better. So, as the horse is moving towards the center, the goal, whatever, then we mark the behavior by a softening in the perfect scenario, which, by the way, it's so fascinating to see all these things working with flour because it's so obvious. Um, and so then the reward is peace. So that's a lot of place where people get confused. They think the release is the reward, right? That right there, understanding the typical chain of behavior modification, right? But then so then understanding how we're using or not using punishment, and that's it. Like that is the whole thing, but it's actually quite intricate. um, to think about all of those things. And if you don't, and the thing with flour that was, I just felt so dead in the water, is that I felt like she was not feeling reinforced by the reward of the good feeling. So then I'm like, son of a
The
bitch.
good feeling doesn't feel good.
Well, or it's kind of like, well, that's better, but it's
Yeah,
not something I'm gonna
exactly. The
to
good
work.
feeling isn't like compelling
Yes, yes. And then, which is
because
a,
then you're trying to convince them of the good feeling. You're trying to
what are you going to do?
punish them into feeling better about the thing that doesn't feel better.
Is
Doesn't feel that great to them. Like,
and that,
okay, it's better than this you harassing me over here or adding this stimulus over here, but that doesn't mean make me want that anymore. Really.
exactly. And so I've been really struggling with it, and it's so hilarious how much advice I get. Because people assuming that I don't know. It's funny. As soon as I'm not getting results at the speed that people are used to, and like the advice comes out of the woodwork. And yesterday we were in flow for a long time, like 4 hours, maybe three and a half hours. So that is a really long time. And one of the things that I was so the thing is, you get a lot of time to think, right? Especially when it's not fast and furious. It's just in flow, stacking one thing on top of the next, on top of the next, on top of the next, right? So one of the things I was thinking about is, like, it's so interesting and cool to have the time to think, have the time to learn. Sorry, uh, have the time to contemplate, you know, in a way that I don't normally get to. But here is my deal. Here is my deal, you guys, is I was so like I want the result that I've been getting by using positive reinforcement like in terms of like I want the animal to go towards something and being very very careful that my negative reinforcement is just setting it up, like so focused on that, and I love the result. But here I was in a situation where I've had to come face to face with, fuck, this is not working because it's not reinforcing. And what are you going to do? The only other thing to do is feed her. And I really didn't want to do that because I love the result of being able to do it with the good feeling of peace, which I have a perfect example of with Revlon. Like, she is working her ass off for appreciation and uh, delight from me, and encouragement, and like all of those things. Like, she's just working harder and harder. Right, exactly. Read, you guys read Corey's comment. That's exactly right. And so I love that so much. And it works to me, like it's just what I want, Michael. So then being like, shit. So then living in the question of like, well, what am I gonna do? Because I put my finger on what I was so resistant about in roping her. Now we're for sure playing in a pool that is not just setting it up and letting it find it, or at least I felt like it wouldn't be, just because it would be so shocky and so over the top and she hadn't bought into anything yet. I just wanted her to have a buy-in first, so that when I rope her, it's setting it up so that she can find it. But if you don't have any reinforcer in the beginning, well, now what are you going to do?
Well, that's the whole question around how do you foster that?
Hmm.
How do you create any spark of that in the first place?
Yes.
I mean, it'd be by God's grace that we have a beast that has interest in interacting, and that gives us a good head start. That has kind of an innate curiosity, innate interest in things. They're not just slugs,
Yeah.
but
Oh,
yeah, I don't know.
okay.
So, how do you take that spark
How do you even, what are you
of
going to do with it?
interest and going, whether you're roping and just setting things up and kind of initially saying, this is going to come toward you. You can escape, but only so much. And you're going to see it's okay. And then when you let down, there's going to be a softening. Like, what's creating the value there, actually? Because, like Corey said, the reinforcer needs to be
Reinforce.
valuable from the animal's point of view.
That's right.
So that's where the relief thing is kind of like, I guess relief as in like survival is valuable from the animal's point of view. So you offered me relief, and so therefore I'm surviving, and so therefore you're adding value to me. And maybe that's what it how it does piece together, approaching it that directly. Um, that you do take something away in order to give something back. Um, and done well, that can speed up the timeline.
That's right. And but see, the thing is that if you're using negative reinforcement, which is fine,
Hmm.
to get you to the opportunity
Hmm.
to present something that the animal wants. But what if you still don't have that? Now you're stuck in the negative reinforcement, which is I better than nothing. Like at a certain point, I'm stressing out because what if she gets hurt? Like, and your mind goes to all the places like, oh, she's gonna grow into her neck rope. She's gonna like, what if this never works? And so Michael is just funny, like as my friend. Can you because it freaking works with every creature. So spent my entire the entire experience over the last 15 years or so honing the skill of setting it up, letting them find that good feeling because that good feeling is more reinforcing than anything else. So, holy shit. I was thinking if I have to go to negative reinforcement slash punishment, well, I can't. I mean, punishment just wouldn't even work, I guess. But that it's like I wouldn't. I guess the funny, humorous part about it is I would just be so bad at it because I haven't practiced it, and I would be so miserable the whole time. But I'm kind of entered up. Unless I were to be like call somebody in or just give her to like John or something like that as she is or whatever. Okay, so let me just take you guys off the hook or save everyone from the cliffhanger. Here's the thing. I it was the setup was just perfect. And so the bottom line is she had been reinforced by the good feeling and by the markers that I was using, which are not very specific at all. Like they're not specific. Well, in terms of like doing a clicker or making a specific sound or even using a single word like with precision, like in other words, this is the marker, I'm not going to use it anywhere else. When you're using a good feeling as your positive reinforcer, I feel like you can be in a lot more of a flow. Have you guys had that experience? And Corey, is that something that happens with dogs too? I'm so sorry, you guys. My dog is my old dog. Oh my God. Ollie's dog is 1,000 years old. Holy crap. Michael, do you know what I'm
Okay.
saying? Like you can be in a flow more.
Oh
And
yeah, because it's not a sharp thing then,
yeah, well, which
or an
means,
interruption. Like a treat can be a distraction almost,
mhm,
and
yes,
there or a click is a
it's
like kind of
slow.
takes you out of it. It's interesting though. I don't know how much that's a you have to. I my brain's not coming up with words today. You have to. believe that's there. You have to trust it's doing something. You know, you have to be aware of that. That open space of going, yeah, good job. Could be a value to the horse. And I think when it's left in pressure and taking pressure away, relief from pressure, you're just not even being invited into the same conversation. I mean, there's many times we've talked in the past where like we're just not even talking about the same thing, and I'm like, kind of, yeah, kind of aren't, but I didn't really want to appreciate that fully. Like, yeah, it's ballparking, right? It's the
Yeah,
same,
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
and yet when you come down to it, it's like, well, same thing, but missing the whole point of it if we don't get to the weeds and talking about what we're actually offering the horse, which is not something that's of value probably to anybody else in the room. No one else in the room cares whether you care about that horse, but that horse cares whether you care about it. And it's from inside of you and it's pretty intangible and but it's you can't like write it an essay and say I love you. You can't like say I care about more than just giving you food at the end of this little session here. Um, like it has to be genuine from inside you, and the horse has to believe it, which is just that's the challenging as all get out part is you could be wanting that and feeling that. And thinking of Kim who bought Cinco, like they have a very cool connection. I think they're like perfect match for one another in terms of what her interests are and her goals are and how she wants to um, be with her horses. She will meet Cinco right where Cinco needs someone. Like Cinco would be a harder person to or harder horse to fit than Kim would be a person to fit. Like Kim could probably have a whole bunch of different types of people, but Cinco fit someone who did not understand what we were just talking about, or is pretty just pushy or kind of demanding. And Cinco would just be over that so soon, or someone who wasn't really intent on adding value to the horse and working at um, being a clear and direct leader. No, like, oh, I don't want to hurt her. I don't want to offend her. Like, if it's wishy washy, like her margin for error on being wishy washy, over being over much, or being kind of centered in there right where it's going to fit Cinco is thin. And we talked about that. Um, as part of one of the reasons where like they really are great for one another, but it won't be necessarily like a no-brainer horse. Just go get on and have fun and not think about anything. But Kim's excited about that and is into that. Um, says I think Cinco more than a lot of horses will keep you super honest on something like this. Because it is the only thing of value to her. She doesn't care if there's a lot of pressure. She doesn't care if I mean she might care if there's treats, but we haven't really used but she's not super shocky and going to get all up in arms if there's a lot of pressure. She's just going to kind of shut down and be angry. She's not going to be super responsive if you're just goading her along and what it like she's like this is dumb, right? You're not I'm going to do this because we're doing it together. I'm going to do this because you appreciate me doing this. I'm going to do this because we are in conversation and in connection. And when you can land on that, she's like, "Oh, this is great. Like, how fun us hanging out together." But trying to get it any other way is not going to create the harmony that you'd want. Um, and the reason I roll through all of that is some horses you could skip that and still get by.
Yeah, you just won't have the brightness, or you won't have, at some point you're probably going to run into some sort of a roadblock, depending on how much you want to do, with your horse. Uh, I don't know. Maybe not. You buy a super talented horse and you present them with what they're bred to do, and probably be fine.
No.
Um,
Well, and that's the other thing I'm thinking as you say that, and you end with that, is how many horses go through life pretty well shut down, like we were talking yesterday about, like how sometimes it's really hard when you get a horse. Like you don't buy the context with the horse. Like that horse just gets completely lifted out of everything, unless you are going to the same events with that horse as the previous owner did. You've been riding together with the previous owner for years and years and years. You have similar goals and styles and, um, you know, all of that. But if you take a horse that was someone's horse and they did X, Y, and Z with it, and now you move to a different state, different boarding environment, different herd environment, you're asking the horse to do things entirely differently with total totally different degree of frequency, right? Riding once a week as opposed to, 4 days a week, going out, you know, once a month versus hauling out pretty well every day to ride somewhere, riding off from your property versus any of it. So there was a pony in the lesson yesterday that had been a lesson pony for a lot of years, 4 lessons a day. Like this pony was poop tired. And I know the pony from a while back. And I was like, no way, this is the same pony. Um, and I think to agree, she was just very shut down. Not surprising, right? Given the hours involved in that life. And I mean, she's just kind of a little bit of a spunky spitfire, but she's not exhausted. She's got one rider who's not riding her every day. She's out in a herd rather than in a stall. Completely different environment. One person riding around rather than lesson pony kind of on the wall. It, it's
it's a
like
big
if
change.
you're thinking you bought the same horse,
Right.
okay,
Right.
you bought that horse if you're going to keep it in that environment, but you don't know what you're going to have
Hmm.
necessarily. I don't want to like scare people from I can't buy a horse because who knows what I'm going to get. But you you bring it into an entirely different environment. That horse is going to behave potentially entirely differently because it was likely a good deal of the situation in which it was spatially where it was when it was, but then how it was handled, how much it was handled. That had it behaving that way, and you can shift one thing and that just completely changes. Or like folks that'll have these ranch, oh, this horse, is out of South Dakota, he's a ranch horse and he's done it all. And it's like, yeah, that means that horse was got on, rode hard, not even in a bad sense, but got on, go to business, go get the job done. There's no jacking around, no goofing around, no standing around. If we are standing around, we're like taking a break because we're going to be trotting and working. And then we pop back in the trailer business. There's no question. Are you going to get in this trailer or how are you getting in the trailer? It's just in the trailer. Maybe not even forced, but it's just very matter of fact. So in the trailer you go, you get home, you're wet settled blanket, you're exhausted, peel everything off, turn you out. Next day, off we go. Something similar. Go gather. Lots of trotting. Oh, you stay right with me. I'm got a rope down. I gotta be. You gotta be where I'm gonna be. No questions elsewhere. Like whether this is a real sophisticated rectangle, real nuanced conversation. Who cares? You got to be in the rectangle. Okay, great. Ranch horse, done everything. Been, anybody can ride it. It's never done anything crazy. All right, real reliable. And then you get it home. Well, it goes out once a week, every couple times a week. It hesitates at something. You're like, oh, okay, I don't know this. Rather than going, come on, let's go. We're crossing this bridge. Or, you know, hesitates to get in the trailer. It's not just a whack on the ass and like, get in the trailer, we're going. We got to get home and make dinner and context shifts. Now you have an entirely different horse because the horse is not facing the same level of exercise, stimulation, same leadership, same. So it's almost like you rewrite the script as soon as the horse gets in your hands if you're not going to handle the horse almost exactly the same. Not exactly the same, but
Well, you have certain things, right? Like the horse knows some intellectual items.
hmm
That's not going to change. They can understand a framework that they can either believe, abandon.
believe it or not.
Yeah, if you do a good job, it'll translate. Those are the things that you would be buying. Um, but yeah, yeah.
Which,
And that's the thing is I guess just knowing even that the whole experience is part of what they're taking in. Like you said, the whole culture, the
Mhm.
totality of the experience matters to the horse. Would you say that's the summary?
yeah, and that's what's tricky is when you say that's what you're buying. In a horse, you're buying a potential,
Mhm.
or you're buying a quality, or you're buying or and experience and understanding that's transferable, but you know have to know how to access what you're attempting to transfer. Or it has to be so set given the horse's personality and like if you have a very easygoing horse that buys you more latitude in them being you being as clear in the like we're talking about this kid horse as a kid's horse is like giving lessons to like hundreds of kids, but turning it loose for her daughter at 6, not being worn out riding 4 lessons a day, like pretty different pony to have a kid kind of just riding around a little bit more independently, individual lesson, and then like go have fun on your pony. N- Not a deadhead pony or a pony that's just kind of a doop to do to do. Spirit about him is she's not going to do that without more sophistication and direction, and you can't make her be that, right? She isn't that horse.
Which is if a person wanted to work at it, that's actually super valuable because then she's not, only going to be able to function, you know,
hmm
it.
Yeah, and that's not saying she couldn't be that, but that would take a serious investment in that horse to get them to where this is a fairly, you know, lively, athletic, talented horse, but now I can put someone who's just a beginner on them, or not beginner, but getting going, and still have something available to them in terms of quality and not just, a compliant little bugger. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying.
Mhm.
Remember?
Well, let's see. Brenda has a comment. Interesting because I saw this a little bit when we bought my husband's horse home. He spent his whole life working at the cattle. Um, Sorry, this is just with the TDCGJ in the prison systems. I'm not for sure what that means. Um, he's definitely a good boy, but it was a mental shift getting on a horse that truly had a job its whole life. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And we've seen that in all different ways, right? In terms of a horse maybe that knows its job and the job's been pretty straightforward, not super intricate, and then maybe it's just a different situation when the horse is, like when you're working on a puzzle together. That's a little bit different than like go dig 10 fence posts. If you're painting something together or if you're playing in an orchestra together or so, you know what I mean? There's it's just a different way of being. Both are good, And the horse can get really content, you know, digging its fence post holes.
Hmm.
It knows, and you think about, there are people like that too, right? They just feel
Rather do that.
are doing, yeah. Then living like I do. um, yeah. So, and then if you want a horse to shift, um, River's kind of a good example of this a little bit. She's not very upset about it, but she's definitely insecure when you put her in a new environment. Anyway, just that transition between being a drone to being a co-pilot. Some horses do better than others. So it's cool with Revlon. Just as an kind of an example of this sort of thing, she'd probably be a horse that would be a good drone. At least it seems like it. I don't know. She doesn't seem like she has to be like super stimulated, But on the other hand, she is very interested and has a potential to be a great co-pilot. And I think a huge part of what makes her easy is that she is super reinforced, by the good feeling and by the praise. Like, so how much time do we um have to spend, like, let's say, on a horse that's just done the ranch job, just sorry you guys, that's but has done a straightforward ranch job, that definitely can suit a horse's nature really, really well. That transition between, like, um, working for something different, a more, I
Yeah.
don't know, changing that framework. That's exactly what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Is like, yeah, changing the framework and then showing the horse the value of it, that it's a different way of operating, like, and maybe you don't have the crutches that you would have, like airing your horse out right away, or them, having to go up and down. People do this at the beach here all the time because there's sand dunes between where they park and where the flat ocean is. So everyone gets the pictures on the flat beach, but really the horses have gone through like some sand dunes. So like they're huffing by the time they get to the other side, which is a great way to do it. But without that, you bring them out of a stall, groom them, saddle them in a new environment where the rail and the kids and like the whole setup is different. Well, then the framework is completely different.
Yeah.
The crutches are completely different.
Yeah. I mean, when you say straightforward, straightforward might not mean simple or easy, but it might mean it's actually more difficult, and therefore kind of you're not overthinking it. You're just like, this is what we have to do. It's pretty straightforward. We have the job, get the job done. Not that the job is easy, but by virtue of the fact that this is the job and this is what has to be done today, we're just going to do it, and we're not going to like be thinking too hard about it. Let's just get the job done. And that
And very repeatable.
and repeatable. It's day in, day out. We have to do our thing, even if it varies. Like, the job has to be done, and we're not overthinking it. I think is probably one of the biggest. Um, I don't know. It's almost like the horse at that point goes, well, whether they're like super turned loose about it or anything, they're kind of like, well, I'm the partner on getting the job done. We'll just do what we need to do. And then the horse is kind of like, I don't care what we need to do because I know we're just going to do it. And the horse is participating, but maybe not. Like, I'm excited to do this, but they're just kind of resigned to it, but not even in a shutdown fact way. But they're just like, well, this is what. There's no option to not do this because of the way I'm being handled, and yet I'm okay with that. Like, this is just the job to do, and whatever. So there's it's just such a paradigm shift if you take a horse from that mentality where they are doing a job, they're maybe being considered, but the idea of having this back and forth conversation with the horse is not the focus of the day. The focus of the day is get whatever job done, go gather the cattle, go you know check the fence, go whatever, um, doctor something, gather something,
Yep.
whatever. Then the horse just kind of says, well, this is the job, right? I'm like, the horse almost sees themselves as a player in the game, but not the one calling the plays. Just like, I'm the laborer, sort of, or I'm not in charge, but I'm a worker bee, right?
That's called
So
a
that's what
drone.
I'm going to do. What's that?
That's called a drone.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
Oh no,
yeah,
maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. The drones are not worker bees. Yeah, I forgot about that. Maybe worker bee is better.
but then to take it to, okay, now we don't have a job. We are getting out and enjoying a trail ride, or we're getting out and we're going to work on getting things more back and forth, seamless, light conversation, or we're getting somewhere and we're going to do a lesson or a clinic. And the focus is on this. It's like the horse is like, well, why did we get off a trailer here? There's nothing to do. We don't
Yeah,
have a job. You're
I've
not gonna like tell me where to go and what to do, and like it's pretty important that we get there because you seem to know exactly where we're headed. And then when I miss something, we're like suddenly going over there, and there's not like this huge to do about, okay, how do I clearly and lightly and beautifully communicate this to the horse? It's just like, oh shit, I guess the job's over there now. We were going over there, but she must have changed her mind. All right, off we go. And like the overthinking it can really pile in there, and the horse can very easily, as we've seen, put up with a lot of communication that from what our ideal might be of you know, kind of oneness, of the horse just really being there and available and searching for questions and answers and offering things and arranging their body in certain ways, to that being the focus. If that's what we're thinking, the horse can just as easily go, well, let me settle into the fact, depending on the horse, settle into the fact that I just have to do what I'm told. And that's cool too, even if I am being put out of balance, or even if I am whatever being pulled on. And like they just adapt to that sort of thing. So it, and then to what degree is that rewarding? Just knowing they will not be confused. Right? They might get pulled on, they might be, but it's not. There's not going to be any lack of clarity. It's not going to really be complicated. I mean, yeah, it's the job's not easy, but then the reward becomes just being out and doing something. Which how many people say that to their horses? Like they just like to go on trail rides. They enjoy it. Like yeah, of course. Who doesn't? Who wants to just sit in the living room and spin in mindless circles? I mean, that's if you're not having an in-depth conversation with the horse in the arena and you're just going around in circles, not thinking about what you're doing and not having a conversation, I'm sure that's not the most engaging for the horse. But having a job that every day is a little bit different, but you're out going and doing something, probably self-fulfilling and enjoyable enough that even if it's not, hey, I see you, you see me, this is the value add, just being out and doing things in life is a value add, as long as they're not beside themselves and all jacked up while doing it. Horses can kind of get into that. So I don't know. There we go.
yes, it's they are different, and you can see how the people that come from a cowboy background a working horse background, you just got to give your horse a little job to do. That's what they're trying to say, right?
Mhm.
Like have some sort of a purpose. And, people have come up with all sorts of different ways to think about a jumping horse that you get them in the ring somehow. I'm not saying they're all like this,
Mhm.
but we see it every weekend if you watch jumping. Somehow get them in the arena. Then they run away. But if you can steer them, you can go over the jumps and then that's it. So there's a bazillion different, like, or think about like a Pirelli horse, or any sort of natural horsemanship horse that can get on a pedestal. Like, it changes the game completely for the horse that comes from what do we say, a city background or what, I don't know. When they're like, oh, like, something very clear.
Yeah.
But you make a really good point about the context. Um, and you're right, it is, and it's funny, of course, because you can have a very fancy dressage horse who's used to doing all sorts of intricate work, but get him out without the rail, and get him out without that kind of a task and that kind of a warm up and that kind of and they're just like, what in the hell?
Yeah.
This is why there's a lot of thought goes into making sure that horses don't end up like that, even if they are dressage horses for a living. But yeah, so getting a horse hooked on you, or hooked on a feeling, because think about it, when I hand my horses off to somebody else, they're super into it and can function just fine, so long as the person is into the same, not
Mhm.
necessarily doing the same thing. Well, I guess it depends, but yeah, because a horse has to have a certain amount of exposure. But if the human that I hand my horses to have a similar framework, then it all will work.
Mhm.
Degama's a
It's
great
interesting.
example.
It's interesting too how much they're being like how long a horse's opportunity or how much opportunity a horse will give you to show them that you do have something for them before they're like, no,
Yep.
you're just gonna tell me what to do. And then
Yep.
they just gonna, oh,
Otto's what the hellness is how we ended up here. Michelle. Oh my god. Yeah. Well, some horses are so lost, and this is why with flower, it's like, oh no, if there's no anchor, what am I going to do then? Versus, like, you think about, we take somebody else's horse, Michelle, Otto's, like, think about it. I She handed me her horse at a buck clinic, and you walk up, you pet the horse. What are you doing? Here's where we come to, hey, there's going to be something good. And you show them. Somebody who's calling me right now is forgetting that I'm doing the show. Um, and that individual should know better. So back to well, is there anything else on that? I just want to, because here's the thing. This is what, definitely, how do we get to being able to change contexts? Of course, the clarity The repeatability, whether you are a ranch horse or a lesson pony, there's a lot of comfort and value in that because it's understandable. There, you do something, you get another something in exchange. You don't have a lot of confusion. Horses hate that. Um, so that's a ton of value, right? But not but well, I mean, what we're talking about doing is not that. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Because it's not just using the activity to create the pool to play in. It takes the time it takes. Yeah, keeps popping into my head during this conversation. But here's the thing, Corey. With Flower, I'm just like, is this? I really had until yesterday. I was like, I don't think she's feeling this is reinforcing because the thing is, if the framework, however slow it is, you should be able to tell that you're heading in the direction you're talking about going. And if you're, and I was just like, I was wrong. Is bottom line. But I was like, I don't think this is reinforcing to her, which is going to have to be a change in in, like, I have to be humble enough to be like, if this is not reinforcing, then I have to change what I'm doing. Maybe not the
So
mechanism.
you're wrong in that you thought it wasn't reinforcing. You were questioning it wasn't reinforcing, and it kind of yesterday popped, and you realized it was.
It obviously had before. I just didn't know it had.
So what caused it to pop yesterday, or like what?
It didn't. It was just that I saw it clear enough yesterday.
Yeah, I guess what made it clearer for you enough to extrapolate back and say it was working. I mean, it was coming through.
Well, one of them was, I'll just, there's lots of different ways to think about it. There were a lot of details within it, which is so fun. But so imagine, um, I'm basically what I did with the stick and string was I wanted to work towards. This is the plan that emerged as I was kind of moving her around. Um, Organizing. I like, you guys. I like the idea of organizing the horse's feet more. The mule, and then setting it up. That's the game. Literally, you guys, organizing her feet. Like, in other words, you can't just randomly change direction 1,000 times. And then pretty soon I was like, I don't even want you to change direction into the fence. You're not going to kick out at me. So let's get, some semblance of, like, here's some organization. Say it like a Canadian, right, Susan? Here's some organization. And then now I'm going to set it up so that you can find the reinforcer. Hello. Like, that's the thing, right? With as little punishment as possible. And so, um basically, my idea was to play the friendly game, stick and string friendly game. But I don't have a halter on her or a rope around her neck, which is a shame because I could have been teaching her to follow a physical feel as well. That's the value of roping them and showing them how to follow a feel. But whatever, I wasn't going to do that for a few reasons. So, anyway, what that consists of, you guys, is throwing the string up over the horse's back, over the mule's back, and then drawing the horse backwards, mule backwards, while you kind of wave the string um, back and forth on either and letting it fall on either side. Then you switch hands, swing the string up over the horse's back like this, and what's cool is the horse gets to move and not move. And you can work from a longer distance, and you can certainly expose the animal to different things than you could with the flag. It's not, I really have been thinking about this a lot. They do similar things, of course, but they also are separate, right? The string, the stick and string is a lot more like a lasso. Um, I think. But anyway, so that was my idea, right? So, okay, but I'm in a 50-foot round pen with a tiny little mule. I cannot reach her with the string unless she lets me do it, right? So we had worked our way towards it, and all sorts of things happened. And by the way, switching to a hula hand swing with the stick and string, I was like, I'm so cool right now. I can switch from an overhand swing to a hula hand, no problem. It's like, I was chuckling to myself. Anyway, so she was eventually letting me leave the string over her back. Okay. So that was one of the first things. So then she was getting and to notice, and it wasn't because she was super tired or, I mean, nothing like that. But so my first clue was that she was all of a sudden cutting the circle much, much smaller so that it would stay on her back. And the only reason she wanted to do that was because it felt good to be closer to me, to be more connected, the whole softening. Because I really had been very careful not to make it too uncomfortable so that I was using too much negative reinforcement to cut, right? That's why it took so long. And this is just I get to do whatever I want to do, right? Good, bad, or ugly. Like I wanted to be able to do that. Do as little as possible, which you could say, well, that's not helpful to the horse, the mule. That's making everything take longer. But what she was learning was what I wanted her to learn. I wanted to set it up so that she was finding the thing. Okay, that was the first one. So the softness, and not because when she had let me pet on her before, it was kind of because she got stopped and comfortable in a certain place, right? Well, that's a completely different situation than the mule trotting or walking around me so that I could leave the string over her back. This is a right, like, so now we're playing in a totally different game. And I had been very quiet because, meaning, I talk to my horses a lot, not giving them cues. Like, I don't tell them what to do, but I definitely cheerlead for them. And I use that as a marker a lot of times, but it's like a fuzzy marker. I mean, a clicker trainer would not be impressed because it's not very. And I understand that it's a completely different way of doing it. It's more like the hot or colder game. I mean, that's what it is, right? It is the hot or colder game. But if the animal doesn't
It,
know,
it is. It isn't. It's not sharp like a clicker, but that's the essence of what you're doing.
it is, but it's a little bit more like fuzzier in the sense that you're not waiting for the animal to go, or let's say you're playing it with a person. You're not
Yeah.
waiting for the person to go hide behind the door before you click them,
Yeah.
right? So, and
But
it's just more
I don't
imprecise.
know. I don't know though. It's more imprecise, but it's probably more precise because like, is
Mm,
the horse looking for the snap, and that's what triggers the chemical release that is that marks the reward, or are they emotional,
mm,
um, relational
mhm,
minded enough? Which I'm saying, are they? But duh, they are. I would say that you're cheerleading them along the way is like a crescendo. The hotter colder thing, I think, is absolutely it. That's probably more effective and accurate if they believe you, and if you're genuine, right?
It's like, and you have to know, the animal has to know what hotter or colder means.
Yeah, I mean, there has to be some sort of understanding and communication going, but I would argue it is more effective and accurate than wait till it's accomplished there, click.
And it's very yeah, and there's a flow to it
Yeah,
that
the
I
flow comment you had earlier, yeah.
right. And I have done the clicker training, so I know exactly what the difference between the feelings of that. So yeah, you could be totally right. I mean, I'm sure you are right. I guess in terms of I don't know, I was just thinking of it maybe a little bit more broken up, you successive approximation, you do this and this and this. But that does, I don't like that part because it does take away the flow. And I was so resistant. Michael's gone. He's probably getting a phone call. But I was so resistant to adding the food in. Um, Even though, like, okay, if the feeling and being on the right track, the appreciation, the celebration, all of those things, if that is not going to be reinforcing, you only have two choices: turn up the pressure or find something that the animal finds reinforcing. Does it right? Okay. So back to, I had not been saying anything though. I had not been cheerleading because I was like, I think maybe I poisoned that early on. Because I think that was stressing her out. That was my thought, right? So I had been pretty quiet, but all of a sudden, when she was really like, when I threw the string over her back when she was trotting, and she flowed down to a walk and stayed close so that it would just, I was like, good job, wow. And then she was like, and I'm like, oh my God, thank you, baby Jesus. I was like, aha, it did work. Okay, well, then I could start to say, because of course the goal would be to be able to swing it up over her back. And then she kind of gets stopped, rolls her hindquarters, I back up, and it's like, good job. And she would follow me. That was one of the things but that's different because she had figured that out before, right? We had the whole following me, yielding the hindquarters, like, but in terms of making the final connection about, like, oh, I want to be all the way with you, I didn't think that was working. So that answers your question, yeah, in terms of how I knew.
Mhm.
I couldn't even believe it because, like I said, it popped, it was very, very genuine. It wasn't like, good job, no, it was like, way to go, good job. And she knew it. I was like, phew. So then for her, and she had been, during the whole thing, she had been licking and chewing, working her mouth in cowboy speak, you know, the whole way, right? So the process was, the pennies were dropping, the whole process was different. And it's not like she at the end was yawning or blowing out a lot, when we finally finished. But oh my gosh. So she was getting flat to the fence to get stopped. A lot of it was in the middle at first, right? But then as things really, really slowed down, she was ending up like going around to the left. I won't do it with my hand since it's backward. Going around to the left. Um, when I went to change eyes, she was pretty good about, knowing to turn loose laterally to the left, reach her left front foot, and then I would have just swung the string up over her back, and then repeated, right? But she would kind of head off again to the right. Okay, so when she finally got stopped to the right, and that was repeatable, because she was stopping flat to the fence and didn't really have a place for her hindquarters to go to the left, I was stepping over to her left side for her to turn to the right and reach her right front foot. Okay. And this was the other thing we'd never gotten to before, is really being able to work both sides in a flow, right? While exposing her to something. Um, so she was really more apt to go to the left towards the fence as I stepped towards the fence, you know? But here was the other thing that I didn't think I would have is when she would look to the right, I was like, mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that's how I do it, right? A little bit of nodding, little bit of like, mm-hmm, that's right, that's right. And for her to like figure that out and follow that cheerlead, follow those reinforcers or those markers, excuse me, to where she then, what we finished on was her being able to roll her jaw to the right and reach with her right front foot and then stay stopped and then let me swing the string over her back on her left side. But okay, so I'm just saying, first of all, we had her feeling without any words that things were softer and drawing towards that. Number two, having the warmer, warmer. That's it. Good job. Well, actually, before that, is the reward of like, yay, good job. That's exactly right. you know and then the third component of like, you're on the right track. You got it, you got it, do more of that, you got it. So those were three pieces that I did not think that I had at all. Like I
Mm.
said, this is a totally different thing. If the horse gets out, the mule gets out. If the mule gets out and lost and scared, and I'm not an icon of safety and I'm not the soft spot, even if she was alterable, you know, in a pen or roped and, forced to like yield her hindquarters and all of that, until you get to the place where she's moving towards the softness, you're still toast.
Mhm.
So, does that answer it a little bit more?
No.
The relief is pretty significant. And I don't feel like I have to. It's going to start raining, so I'm not going to have the round pen. Like I said, everything was perfect. The footing was perfect. It was actually pretty quiet. We didn't have any interruptions. The string was just sliding over her back, so it wasn't getting. It would wrap around her legs and stuff, but it would just, feel good as it was, unwinding. And like there was a bunch of things that set up really nicely. But even if I don't get a chance to do anything else for a while, that will be there. All of that will be there. That whole
Mhm.
framework. And so in a way, I got let off the hook of like having to change the the modus operandi. On the other hand, oh, phew, but she's a very, very stark contrast to Revlon, I feel like. But I guess it's kind of interesting, Michael, when you're talking about all the different ways to develop a horse and to get them used to a lifestyle and content in a lifestyle or a certain way of training. And it's very clear what I have practiced, and that I'm not for sure that I would be able to function very well doing it, any other way. So then here's the thing: when it comes to training horses for someone else, like I can show the horse that and develop a rapport probably pretty quickly. I've done that a lot. And I can show the horse the education. But, unless a person's pretty bought in, it's sort of pointless. I've been thinking about this quite a bit because I charge a premium, for lessons. And I don't know if I mentioned this last week or not, but sometimes people want a lesson and they're just, I don't know, whatever. They don't take it that seriously or whatever the deal is. And it's like, there's really, really, really don't waste your money because unless you're you don't have to be good at it. I'm not saying you have to be good at it or anything, but you have to, it would be smart to want the product I'm selling. If you don't even want the product I'm selling, then for heaven's sake, don't waste your money.
Yeah. I
And
have
all and
one
also
one new client that's like, I just don't see this working out longer term. We're gonna keep getting together because you're into it, but I'm less into it, I think, than you are. And I will openly have that conversation when the time is right, but we'll give it a little time here. But I just kind of don't feel like maybe you're really hunting up what I'm offering and not super rewarding to me. I'm not sure what you're gaining by it. Hopefully something. We'll sort this out in a while here, but like, from my vantage point right now, I don't see us working together long term, but
that's fun.
let's give it a bit.
That's kind of cool. And that's where
Yeah.
you've always told me, look, you can't want.
Go talk to somebody else. Everybody's calling us this morning. Apparently, Emma did not. Did you put your phone on do not disturb?
No, because I feel like it cuts out on me sometimes. Here, look, I'm gonna send a message.
Do not call me.
I'll call you after the show, period. There we go. Hopefully that makes a little sense. Um, I guess the other thing is you've said, well, I love that someone would be so upfront. It's because you're so open and practical too. I love it. And so non-judgmental. And I wish that's the thing that you could kind of get to or that I wish I was better at getting to it. But you can't, it's so ephemeral. This is what I feel like. And maybe I know that people want it because think about how big the natural horsemanship world, so to speak, or the horse whisperer world, or however you want to say it, like people appreciate that, and there's a
Mhm.
whole group of people that want it. Um, but I guess what I mean is, but it's also kind of ephemeral. How do you explain it so that people know what they're choosing or not choosing? Because sometimes I had this the other day. Well, can you ride my horse for me? And it's like, yeah, but a few things. First of all, you're probably not even going to see a big result. I will feel a big result. The horse will feel a big result, but your horse is not just because of where the horse was. It's like because she needed to make some big changes over a few rides in order for a person to be like, be able to recognize it. Like, you would see it, of course, but
Mhm.
I'm like, I don't even think it's going to be worth it for you. And people that know me and have been around me a long time are just blowing the whole process off. Think they're doing it. You're like, okay. I mean, I don't know. Or think I'm not making, especially like in the beginning, let's say, think I'm not making a lot of progress or just ready to take a shortcut because they don't understand the framework that we're talking about. So, do you have any ideas of or thoughts on how to um, define that a little bit more? Has made me think about it. This is the only thing is flour has really caused me to. You would think we've been talking about this for years. Just because for myself, it's like, why am I so resistant to roping her? And I still don't even for sure know how I'm going to feel about that overall. But it's like now, if and when I rope her, because obviously I will do that at some point. I mean, I have to teach her to follow a feel. Even if I started with a halter on her, like whatever, it's the same. It's the same thing, you know. But but now it's a completely different situation because I can help her through it in a way that she's moving towards and feeling supported and all of those things. So I don't know. I don't know what else. It's kind of fun, of course, to be at the very edges of consciousness. And then, to have to trust your gut. Now, the stress level, like I said about having a wild creature that you can't doctor, and that if they're loose, things are really going to not be that fun for anybody. Particularly because at Debbie's it's not enclosed from the highway. Um, on a property that was 100, you could be like, ah, well, at least they're just not in the round pen, you know. And my house wouldn't be any better, you know. Um, you'd lose them in the forest. So that stress level is higher all the time. But being at the very edges of what I can explain and having to run off of my gut is fun, especially after yesterday. Any other thoughts about that? Also, Flower is so beautiful. She shed out, her little belly hair and her weird yearling hair is all gone, and she's a little bit more even. Um, and when she gets comfortable and is going, she's yeah, pretty fun. Anyway, that's a side note, not especially relevant. But what do you guys think? What are your thoughts? Oh, we should get going pretty soon here. Um, how do you feel like that fits into the ranch horse, the lesson horse, the positive and negative reinforcement and positive and negative punishment, and what we're moving toward, what we want to move towards what I want to move towards as a result. So once again, quick contrast to Revlon. She's onto it. Like the framework is there. That's it. So long as I don't make any massive mistakes or get unlucky, in a circumstance comes up like where it's just gonna go click, 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 and I mean, but she's marching down a road that is very obvious. But she would also march down somebody else's road if it was totally different. And you would just so easily not end up with the same result at all.
Hmm.
So she's only heading there because I'm shepherding her there. It would not last. Like she's doing exactly what she's shown to do. But if somebody were to show her something else, she would do exactly that too. you know, Whether it was a benefit to anyone or not, because she doesn't know anything.
Yeah.
So even simple things like um she stood in her stall yesterday for the whole 4 hours. No water, no food, you know. But what if I was hovering, oh, you need water, you need food, and then teach her that she can't just be content by herself. Like stand there, cock a leg, and I will tell you when we're done. That's just an item. She's like, okay. Right? But it's like things like that that you can either teach them one way or the other. And I would have done it totally different, in my years before, where I would have been more hovery. But that's a cultural item too between the two of us, and how would they know?
Hmm.
They only know what we show them, right? But oh my god, you guys, I was starting to freak out. I mean, just if I am allowed to be a little bit over dramatic about it, because I wanted her to be reinforced by the good feeling, which turns out she was, but I didn't think she was. And like Corey said, it takes the time it takes, but also I didn't want to be unwilling to adjust. I wanted to do the right thing for the animal, and at a certain point, it's like she does have to get handleable. Even if you did have to rope her and choke her down and like show her the deal, because at a certain point, that is the best thing for her, because she does need to be taken care of. So where's the line, and where do you say, okay, for whatever reason, I'm not, this is not working? That's so hard. And it's so easy, like you just said from that student, like, yeah, I don't know. And the first time a person really hits upon that, I think they're probably addicted for life, right? But to really see and understand that moment, as we're shepherding people to that as teachers, can you guys remember the first time that you figured that out, that your horse was being reinforced by a good feeling, and that you could communicate a cue, mark it with a softening, and then have them be like, yay, I like that. I will do whatever you want again, so long as I understand it. If I get that. You guys remember the first time? I don't. I don't. I remember the first time way long ago when I started the Pirelli program, where my horse started to understand a language. I do remember that. And I've been riding for since I was 12, but I remember that. Like, oh, yay, we're talking. Like, we are legitimately talking. But I don't remember the first time that, well, I remember the first time I got a horse out of trouble. Like, it was at the Buck Brannaman Clinic. I don't know, 2012 or something like that, with Nigel. And we were in Spano, it was pouring down rain, blah, blah, blah. I was in the crowd, and he was jacked because the first thing Buck had us do was pick up a soft feel on the rail. No short serpentines, nothing. And of course, Nigel just got tighter and tighter. So I rolled him out of traffic. I think I've told this story to you before, and was able to start some short serpentines. And the relief that flooded through him, and then I pet him, and you could just feel him go like, holy shit, you helped me. I was like, ooh, I want to be able to do more of that. So, well, say some final comments here before we go. Nobody has anything to say? Was that boring? Maybe that was boring. Oh, maybe Michelle had something else to say too.
I don't
Oh,
see
she said
anything.
Corey said you've been super patient with helped her, but she ran after. Oh, see, some of these guys have seen more than me, but she ran after you when you left the arena the other day. It was working already. Duh. Oh, Gary did say that too. I think actually, Corey, your little comment that you had said something the other day, and then um yeah, Gary said, like, I bet you have more in there than you think. And I was like, I don't think so. I don't think she's feeling it. But Michael, here's the thing. The sky is the limit if it's working. And this is the situation I was in. Like, first of all, she's what would she's awake awake, you know? And so you almost have unlimited and she's a mule, you know? Um, but on the other hand, if it wasn't working, I felt like I had no possibilities that I was interested in.
Hmm.
But I was gonna have to man up and do it anyway for the good of the creature. And I was like, "Ugh, wish I'd never started this project." But then, like yesterday, when I got there, and I was like, how precious is it to be able to be in that place? And I remember this from long ago, is just being in the place where it just doesn't matter. The learning, the experience of it all, the wondering, the not knowing what to do is the best. That's the best. Except, like I said, I was really worried about just being able to handle emergencies. Like, if you can't handle emergencies, then I just didn't feel like I had unlimited time. And Debbie's been so cool about not rushing me out of there too. So it's been less pressure than if I was like, oh my God, I have to get her home. Um, and I'm definitely more able to articulate this whole thing. But you know what else? Isn't it interesting that I couldn't tell that it was working before? Yesterday I could tell, it was clear as day.
Hmm.
But like, remember, we've had so many horses where it's like, look, it's working for you. You can't. I can see that it's working. But I was like, I don't think this is working.
Well,
Oh my God, you guys! If she ever comes to me and puts her head in my hands,
then you'll never be able to sell her. Just look out, Kip. It's gonna happen. Just saying.
but what about poor Feather? Like, she needs time too. She's so perfect. And that's the other thing, having to let go of, like, because I only have one other mule experience, it's like, these are so different. This is nothing like, I must be doing something wrong. Brenda, not boring. Susan says not boring. Okay, good. Well, thank you for your feedback. Because sometimes I'm talking, I'm like, am I even making sense? I mean, not really, right? You can never have enough mules. Well, except we're gonna try to make some of these bridal mules, right? Um, Once again, here's the only other thing I would say about the potential here. Because the animal is experience less when I got her, the data set is definitely unique, right? There's no question about that. And that is super valuable. I would hope to all of us is like, it is a data point that we can't always just bring into the picture. But at a certain point, I want to take all this data and feel like I'm making something out of it.
Think you are.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, after yesterday, I just feel like I said, even if I don't get a chance to get back to her for like a week, because I do have the clinic this weekend, and oh my gosh, you guys, I have some custom flags that you are gonna totally love, but I don't have them with me here. Yeah, so I was just gonna show you. Isn't she so pretty?
Pretty cute.
Gosh. So Anyway, she really does look different. She looks very horsey. Oh, you guys, I knew there was something else I wanted to tell you. Okay, so she has a tell. You know, horses have tails. Oh, there's wrinkles at the base of the neck. Oh, look, their eye is way bigger. Oh, look, the lower lip is flopping. Oh, look, the ears are like, okay. So listen to this. She has these long ears, obviously, and they do all sorts of things, and they kind of flop to the side or move around. And when she's super tight, of course, they are like this. And then she has other, but when she's really relaxed, they fold when she moves them like oh my god! I saw it yesterday. I'm like, the hell? And I'm like, flower? And she's looking, I'm like, oh, you have a tail. Again. Thank you, Lord. Michael, all these things that I use all the time. And I was like, I have no tools. I have nothing. Oh, what am I going to do? Because I don't want to go back to forcing it. Anyway, especially no saddle horse. You really want to rope a mule that is like really going to sell out with no saddle horse?
Hmm,
No thanks.
yeah, not your best setup.
No. All right. Well, we should be done for the week. I keep waiting for Michael to maybe say something else, but I remember the ear thing. I was glad to remember that. It's so crazy because they fold. It's funny.
Folding ears are endearing.
I've never seen.
I
I
don't think I've ever seen it in a horse or a donkey, but or a mule. I mean, I guess I've seen donkeys' ears fold, right? They fold more often than a mule's.
I don't know
They
that
kind of flop, but not like in a like turn loose sort of way. Some that are just like Sadie has a bent over ear and a
yeah,
pointy ear, which is
yeah.
I think is cute, but
Adorable. And that's what it looked like, but it was because the ear I've never seen Feather do it. I
mhm,
mean, when she like shakes her head and they're loose, like they do stuff, but I'd never seen.
kind of limp.
Yeah, yeah. All right.
It's fine.
So, we will see you guys next Thursday morning at 6:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
8:30 Central.
Bye, everybody. Thanks
Bye.
for joining us.